Imagine a young girl lying in bed, too weak to move as her family sits around her crying and praying for her to get better. They don't know if Shell is alive or not. But then, something happens, something so incredible and unexpected that it changes her life forever. This is the story of Aisha, a 15-year-old girl who grew up in a loving Muslim family. Her life was full of happiness, faith, and dreams. She loved her family, worked hard in school, and wanted to become a doctor one day to help others. She was kind and caring, and her family was proud of her. But everything changed when Aisha got very sick. At first, it seemed like just a fever. Her mum thought rest and medicine would help her feel better, but instead she got worse. She became so weak that she couldn't even sit up. Her parents were very worried. They prayed to Allah, asking for a miracle to save her. Her father called the doctor, but nothing worked. One evening, her breathing became slow and stopped. Her family gathered around her bed, holding her hands and praying. Her mom cried, asking Allah to help her daughter, while her siblings stood quietly, scared and unsure of what was happening. Then, something strange and amazing happened. Aisha felt like she was floating. She could see her family sitting around her, but it was as if she wasn't in her body anymore. She felt light, free and calm. Suddenly, a bright light surrounded her. It wasn't scary. It was warm and comforting, like a big hug. As she moved closer to the light, she heard a voice. It was powerful, like it was speaking directly to her heart. The voice said her name, Aisha. She looked and saw a figure in the light. It wasn't clear who or what it was, but it felt loving and kind. Once more the voice uttered, "Your love is immeasurable. The truth is before you. Seek it, and you will find the life you were created for." She felt so many emotions at once: happiness, sadness, confusion, and peace. Then she saw images in her mind. She saw a man with his arms outstretched, a cross held high against the sky, and a feeling of forgiveness so strong it made her cry. The light faded before she could ask what it all meant, and she felt herself drawn back. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. Her family was overjoyed. Her mom hugged her tightly, thanking Allah for bringing her back. Her father wiped away tears, and her siblings cheered with relief. She tried to smile, but inside she was confused and shaken. Over the next few days, she tried to go back to her normal life, but everything felt different. She couldn't stop thinking about the light, the voice, and the strange images she had seen. She wanted answers, but she didn't know how to explain what had happened to her family. They wouldn't understand. Quietly, she started searching for answers on her own. Using her father's phone, she looked up the things she had seen in her vision. She read about the cross and a man named Jesus. The more she learned, the more she felt that the vision was showing her something important, something she couldn't ignore. Growing up in her tightly knit Muslim community, faith wasn't just a personal belief for Aisha, it was her identity. Her family prayed together 5 times a day. They celebrated Ramadan with fasting, nightly prayers, and joyous Eid celebrations. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. The Quran had been her guide since she was a child, and she loved attending madrasa, where she delved into its teachings. Her parents had always taught her that Islam was the ultimate truth, but now, for the first time, she wasn't so sure. After her recovery, she tried to push the vision out of her mind. Maybe it was just a fever dream, she thought. But the images of the man with outstretched hands and the cross kept coming back, vivid and unrelenting. The voice's message, "Seek the truth," echoed in her heart. She began to feel like a stranger in her own life. Prayer, once a source of peace, now felt empty. Every time she knelt to pray, her thoughts drifted to the vision. Late at night, when her family was asleep, she would sneak her father's smartphone and search for answers. She looked up the cross, the figure she had seen, and the man named Jesus Christ. What she found startled her. She read stories of Christians who had also seen visions, many of whom described feeling the same overwhelming love and forgiveness that she had felt. She learned about Jesus' life, his teachings, and his sacrifice. One idea struck her deeply, the concept of grace. The belief that God's love was a gift, not something earned through deeds. This was so different from the faith she knew. Aisha's secret studies only deepened her inner conflict. In Islam, the idea of Jesus as the Son of God was not just different, it was blasphemous. She was terrified of what her family would think if they knew. One evening, during dinner, Aisha asked her mother a simple question. "Ami, what do we believe about Christians?" Her mother looked at her with surprise, then answered, "We respect them, beta, but Islam is the complete truth. That's why Allah gave us the Quran." Aisha began to feel as though she was living two lives. During the day, she was the dutiful daughter and student her family knew. But at night, she became a seeker, diving deeper into the teachings of Christianity. Each new discovery felt like a step closer to understanding her vision, but also a step further away from the faith she had always known. She wasn't just questioning her faith, she was questioning who she was. For her, Islam was more than a religion. It was her heritage, her family, her community. Doubt felt like tearing herself apart. But the vision wouldn't let her go, and neither would the haunting fear of what would happen if her secret was discovered. Aisha had always believed that family was her foundation. Growing up, her home was filled with warmth, laughter, and traditions. Her parents had built their lives on faith, love, and hard work, and Aisha admired them deeply for it. Her father was a steady presence, a man of principle and devotion, while her mother's nurturing care made their home a place of safety and comfort. For her family wasn't just important. They were everything. For years, Aisha had joined her family in daily prayers, attended community gatherings, and celebrated the beauty of their shared faith. Her mother had taught her to recite verses from the Quran, and her father had always reminded her to strive for both spiritual and personal greatness. But now, these moments felt strange. While her parents prayed with devotion, her thoughts drifted to the vision of the light, the cross, and the voice urging her to seek the truth. One evening, her father asked her to lead the family in prayer. It was something Aisha had done many times before, but this time her hands trembled as she raised them in supplication. The words she spoke felt hollow, disconnected from the emotions that once filled her heart. She finished quickly, avoiding her parents' gaze, and excused herself to her room. That night, she cried into her pillow, overwhelmed by guilt. She loved her family deeply, but she couldn't deny the changes happening inside her. Farfas. The tension within her home grew as Aisha's inner conflict deepened. She wanted to honor her parents who had given her so much, but she also felt an undeniable pull toward the truths she was discovering. Her secret was becoming harder to keep, and the fear of disappointing her family loomed large. Growing up in a household deeply rooted in Islamic tradition, Aisha's identity had always been intertwined with her faith and family. Prayers, fasting during Ramadan, and attending madrasa had been cornerstones of her life. Her parents had raised her with love and discipline, instilling in her the belief that Islam was the ultimate truth. Questioning that foundation felt like betraying not just her religion, but the people she loved most. For weeks, Aisha had grappled with her secret, sneaking moments to research the Christian symbols she had seen during her vision. She pored over stories of Jesus, the cross, and concepts of grace, feeling a strange pull toward the teachings of Christianity. The more she learned, the harder it became to hide her growing convictions from her family. She had always been close to her parents and siblings, but now, the weight of her secret created a distance that none of them could explain. The moment to confront her family came one evening as they gathered in the living room after dinner. She sat quietly, struggling to steady her breathing. She knew what she needed to do, but the fear of how her family might react gripped her heart. As Aisha finally shared her story with her family, the reaction was immediate and intense. Her parents, who had prayed desperately for her recovery during her illness, were heartbroken by what they saw as a rejection of their faith. Her mother, who had always been her closest confidant, broke down in tears, unable to comprehend how her daughter could question the beliefs she had been raised with. Her father's disappointment was remarkable, his face a mixture of hurt and anger. For her younger siblings, the conversation brought confusion and fear. Aisha had always been their role model, the person they looked up to for guidance. Now, they struggled to understand what this meant for their family. They all shared a close-knit bond that felt shaken to its core. The tension in the house was unbearable. Her parents viewed her journey as a betrayal, not only of their faith, but of the values they had worked so hard to instill. She, however, was firm in her resolve. She wasn't trying to hurt her family, she simply couldn't ignore the truth she felt so strongly. Her journey was no longer just about faith, it was about authenticity, about living a life that reflected what she believed deep inside. That night, Aisha retreated to her room, emotionally drained but also relieved. She had taken the first step in a journey that would test her in unimaginable ways. The love she had for her family hadn't changed, but the path she was on meant she would have to navigate that love alongside her new convictions. The courage it took to speak her truth marked a turning point, not just in her relationship with her family, but in her understanding of who she was and the life she was meant to live. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Aisha's journey from Islam to Christianity mirrors the experiences of several individuals who have undergone similar transformations. While specific details about Aisha's life and any documentaries featuring her are limited, her story resonates with those of other former Muslims who have embraced Christianity. For instance, Hawa, a young Muslim woman from the Horn of Africa, shared a life-changing experience in which she dreamed of a man smiling and crying for her when she fell ill and was hospitalized. She interpreted this vision as Jesus weeping for her, which led her to convert to Christianity. She faced numerous challenges on her journey, such as family disownment and homelessness. Despite these hardships, she found new hope with the help of fellow Christians. Similarly, Nikta, a young woman from California, experienced a vision of Jesus during a trip to Iran. At the time, she was struggling with suicidal thoughts and anxiety. In her vision, Jesus appeared to her and communicated, "Follow me." This profound experience led her to convert to Christianity upon her return to the United States, despite initial resistance from her family. Another notable example is Rifka Bari, who, at the age of 12, secretly converted to Christianity in Ohio. Born in Sri Lanka and raised in a Muslim family, Bari faced significant challenges after her conversion, including fear for her safety and eventual estrangement from her family. Her story gained national attention, highlighting the complexities and dangers that can accompany such a profound shift in faith. Her journey was one of profound transformation. From the moment of her near-death experience, her life took a direction she could never have imagined. What began as a moment of peace and light became the foundation of an entirely new understanding of faith and identity. The vision she experienced was not simply a memory, but a force that reshaped the way she saw herself, her family, and her beliefs. Her transformation was far from easy. Her upbringing was deeply tied to her Islamic faith, where religion was not just a personal practice, but a defining part of her community and heritage. To question that foundation felt like stepping into the unknown. She had to question long-held traditions, grapple with guilt, and face the fear of misunderstanding by those she loved most. In confronting her family, she showed extraordinary courage. Sharing her vision and her growing faith in Christianity meant risking the relationships that mattered most to her. Her parents, devastated and confused, struggled to understand how their daughter could turn away from the values they had worked so hard to instill. Her siblings, too young to grasp the depth of her journey, were left in a state of uncertainty. Their family's close-knit bond, once a source of unshakable strength, faced unexpected tests. Through all of this, Aisha remained determined. Her journey wasn't about rejecting her family or her heritage. It was about following the path she believed was meant for her. The teachings of Jesus, centered on love, forgiveness, and grace, gave her the strength to face the challenges ahead. These principles became a source of comfort as she navigated the complexities of her new reality, helping her reconcile the love she had for her family with the truth she now embraced. If you're enjoying this story, click Super Thanks to support more inspiring content like this. Your contribution helps us share powerful stories of courage and transformation. Though the relationships in her life changed, she continued to approach her family with love and patience. Over time, small moments of understanding began to emerge, proving that even in the face of pain, connection and compassion could endure. Her journey did not offer easy answers, but it demonstrated the power of perseverance and the hope of reconciliation. Her journey was one of self-discovery, of finding the courage to question, and of embracing a path that felt true to her soul. It is a story of strength, faith, and the enduring love that remains even in the face of profound change. Her life serves as a reminder that transformation, while challenging, is a natural part of the human experience. It teaches us that faith is not static, but evolving, and that the pursuit of truth is one of the most powerful acts of courage a person can undertake. Her legacy is one of resilience and hope, inspiring others to embrace the journey of transformation, no matter how difficult the road may be. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.